Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, California Weather Watch. Today is December 12th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Got the state of California here. There's Alaska, the Aleutian Islands. Check out this area back here, this colder air. This is what's going to make its way towards the California coastline over the next few days and set up a storm system off the coast. We're going to take a look at those details as we go through the video today. We'll take a look at the extended forecast as always, and we've got some offshore winds we're going to look at here before any of these systems arrive. You can see this system here will be mainly impacting the Pacific Northwest, but this is a weakening front and not big impacts are expected. No precipitation across California from this system. What we're watching is this colder air back here towards the Aleutian Islands. Now, taking a look at this day in SoCal weather history, check out 2011 La Jolla. Somebody got a nice picture of a water spout over the open water there, up to 5 water spouts. I just had to share that one with you. San Diego, California National Weather Service with the good stuff as always. Wind gust forecast. We're looking at some breezy winds here as we develop some offshore winds and some north winds coming down some of the valley areas here. Nothing too crazy though. And high tide outlook. If you want more information, check out tidesandcurrents.noaa.gov. Above average tide heights, as you can see as we go through Friday. Now look at the freeze warning here across some of the valley areas. Some of these wind sheltered areas can get pretty chilly in the overnight lows down to 28 degrees. And this goes through 8 a.m. a Wednesday morning. Hanford, California National Weather Service. This is Reno National Weather Service, and they do start to mention the potential for showers Sunday into next week here. But with that cutoff low, there's going to be a lot of changing with just how much precipitation starts to show up in these model runs. So we're going to do our best to break this down over the next few days. And this is looking at winds just off the surface, about 2,500 feet. There's the state of California right there and Nevada. Let's put this into motion. You can see kind of the eddy action going on as we go through the day today into tomorrow morning. But then we bring the offshore winds as we go through tomorrow. And those are going to continue on. You can see the north winds down the desert areas and these offshore winds continuing all the way in through at least Friday afternoon before our storm system starts to develop off the coastline here. More on that here in a moment. And if you want a nice affordable home weather station, click on that link down below to save 10% off. All solar powered wireless, got an ultrasonic anemometer with it. Stores all the data for you in the cloud. Very fun weather station. Now looking at the European, actually the GFS yesterday, this is last night's run. Got the state of California here. There's the Hawaiian Islands. And you can see our energy start to arrive from the Aleutian Islands here and move down off the coast of California. And this thing gets kind of cut off here. So this is going to be a tricky forecast. As you guys remember, we've had dealt with cutoff lows recently also. So we'll see how this one shapes up. We'll break it down day by day. And it looks to be reinforced as we go through next week as well. And then we'll continue to watch that because that one could impact areas of Southern California a bit more. We'll look at the precipitation that would bring here in a minute. But now this is what's called a spaghetti chart. And I'll show you why it's called a spaghetti chart here in a moment, but you can kind of see California here, there's Seattle up there. If we put this into motion, now we're looking further off into the forecast. And as you can see, of course, when you look into the future, things are going to get more chaotic. But there's our storm system here, clearly evident on the ensemble members. And each one of these lines is an ensemble member. On the European, they run 50 of these members. And they tweak the initial conditions to try to correct for any errors we may have in our forecast. The control run is the gray. So that's the initial conditions, best we understand them. And you can see the ensemble agreement is in line with a lot of what the deterministic model says. And as we go off into the future, some good agreement on that secondary shot moving down towards Southern California as well. And as we go way off into the extended, you can kind of see why it's called a spaghetti chart. Looks like these noodles are just all over the place. But as we go way off into the future, you can still kind of see the southwest flow as a strong jet stream shows up in the extended forecast and continues to point at the west coast of North America. So we do have some confidence in that unfolding through the extended forecast. More on that here in a minute as well. Now take a look at 700 millibars. This is last night's GFS run. Here's Japan out here. There's Alaska. There's Washington and California. Watch this area of cold air at 10,000 feet or 700 millibars. And you can see that's a weakening frontal system towards Pacific Northwest. And then this colder air drops down off the coast of California. And you can see how that low gets cut off a bit there. And it kind of still gets drugged to the north and east. And then potentially impacting California as we go on in through this early portion of next week. And then we get that reinforcing shot that might start to impact some of Southern California, maybe picking up some subtropical moisture in front of it and bringing some additional precipitation for the state. And again, we're going to be breaking down those details as we go. And then we look way off into the future here, and you can see this amount of cold air really getting out over the Pacific Ocean. That's what's going to be associated with that jet extension we've been talking about for a while. And so you can imagine this would be some interesting storm activity here for the west coast of North America that we'll be breaking down, of course, as we go day by day. Now, taking a look at the GFS GFS. This is 6-hour precipitation type. There's California, there's Hawaii again. So this is what precipitation map would look like. These are 6-hour increments as we go. And actually, this is the 12Z run. It's running right now. So let's look at last night's run just so we can look at the entire model run. But we continue off into the future. High confidence in this storm forming. And as we go on in through, this is Saturday afternoon, might start to get some rainfall for Northwest California. Starts to swing down towards the Bay Area, maybe even some heavy rain down there, depending on just how this low sets up again. And this would be Sunday afternoon through Sunday night. Now we're going into Monday morning. You can see the northern half and some of Central California continuing to get some precipitation amounts. Then that reinforcing amount of cold air comes down and it starts to bring maybe some subtropical moisture. Look at some of the heavy rainfall starting to show up across Southern California as well. So some interesting weather potentially unfolding here. And as we scroll off into the extended, that much talked about jet extension would be bringing some active weather towards the west coast here. And this could be including California. I mean, look at that frontal system way off in fantasy land there. That's just an example of what a jet extension would be bringing here. You might have heard some chatter about that, but look at that, just bombardment of some very heavy precipitation there off into fantasy land. Now, total precipitation on the GFS, what would that mean? How much precipitation would that be? So I'm going to scroll ahead here pretty quick, but you can see that initial round here could be bringing some heavier amounts to the coastal areas, maybe Northern California, and that secondary reinforcing shot of colder air, bringing some interesting amounts across Southern California as well. Then we look off in the fantasy portion of the forecast and look at some of these precipitation amounts showing up as that jet stream really gets things active. But you got to take that with a grain of salt right now. I mean, things can change, especially at that time range. Now, looking at total precipitation on last night's European run, let's scroll that out. There's the initial system here. And this is the ensemble mean here, so we're not cherry picking anything. You can see pretty robust precipitation showing up in the European. This is going out towards Christmas Eve morning right here. And as we go on into the extended, you can see a little bit of additional precip showing up there as well. But yeah, potentially a wet period coming up here for the state of California. This is the GFS ensemble mean. So the GFS runs 30 of those ensemble members that I've mentioned. The European runs 50, but this is an average of all 30 ensemble members on the GFS. Let's put that into motion. You can see the initial system, the reinforcing shot of cold air with the next system, and then as we look off into the extended, you can see some of these big precipitation amounts across some portions of California. Now, looking at that jet extension, I mean, it's not been wavering at all. It's a pretty interesting feature to look at when you see these jet extensions come across Pacific Ocean. The models have been on this for several days now. The Canadian, the European, and the GFS all show it. A very impressive jet stream ripping across the Pacific Ocean here, pointed at the west coast. So, yeah. Something that we'll be watching for sure over the next week or so. So 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, you can see virtually the entire lower 48 here above average. And look at that 6 to 10 day precipitation. Nice signal there for California, some of Nevada, and some of western Arizona. And here's that 8 to 14 day through Christmas here above average for almost the entire lower 48. And 8 to 14 day precipitation, again, favored for California. This goes all the way towards Christmas here. And this is an experimental product, shows the risk of heavy precipitation for California as we go all the way towards Christmas here. And again, we have to break down these systems one by one, so keep checking back for the latest. And this is risk of heavy snow. Actually, might bring some snow, some higher elevations of the Sierra and up towards Northern California as well. Risk of high winds does include California at the same time frame as well, but nothing to get caught up in just yet. But anyway, that's that initial batch of cold air here that's going to develop the storm system off the coast of California. And it does get cut off a bit, so you know what kind of havoc these systems are going to play with the state of California. So we got to break these down day by day and see if it trends up or down. So anyway, hope you guys are liking these videos. Click like and subscribe. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.